and welcome to another exciting episode of Nerd Central. I'm Channing.
And I'm Krista. We have our next installments of Digital Dreams, Anime Academy, Taking a Bite, and Scary Movie 101. Plus, we have the championship match in our Best DC Character Tournament. But instead of talking about the news of the week, this week we will be talking about some of the notable films coming out this summer. For us, summer is from April 26th to August 30th. There's a lot of Disney on this list since they kind of own the world, but let's start with some of the films that don't have Cinderella's castle in front of them.
The first film is Men in Black International. This is the fourth film in the Men in Black series. It follows a new recruit played by Tessa Thompson, who is given the name Agent M. She is partnered up with Agent H, played by Chris Hemsworth. The organization finds out there is a mole in their midst, and Agents M and H are tasked to find them. Liam Neeson joins the series as High T, with Emma Thompson returning as Agent O. You may recognize Thompson and Hemsworth as they fought side by side in Marvel Studios' Thor Ragnarok as Valkyrie and Thor respectively. No word if series stars Will Smith or Tommy Lee Jones will be making cameos in the film, but we won't have to wait too much longer, as the film will be released on June 14th.
The next film is Dark Phoenix, the final film in the X-Men series from Fox, with Disney acquiring the studio last month. It tells the story of Jean Grey, played again by Sophie Turner, as she struggles to control the Phoenix Force within her. After a tragic event early in the film, the X-Men must choose between saving one or saving the world. Which will they choose? We will just have to wait and see when Dark Phoenix releases on June 7th.
All good things must come to an end, and the MCU is having an end of its own. Half the universe's population has turned to dust after Thanos' snap, so now the remaining Avengers must figure out how to live on without all of their friends. They do, however, have an ace in the hole, and we just saw her in her own film. Before he was dusted at the end of Infinity War, Nick Fury sent out an interstellar message to bring Carol Danvers, aka Captain Marvel, back to Earth to undo the mess Thanos created. They will also, however, have their fellow Avenger Hawkeye back for the film. But now fighting under the moniker Ronin, will the Avengers prevail or will Snap be permanent? We will just have to see when it assembles in theaters on April 26th.
Now let's take it to the next installments of Digital Dreams and Anime Academy.
Hello and welcome back to Digital Dreams. This week we're diving into Season 7, 6.5, Series 6, Season 3, I'm not really sure. Whatever. Digimon Cross Wars, The Young Hunters Who Leapt Through Time. There is no official shorter version of the title because it was never dubbed into English, so we're just gonna call it Digimon Hunters, okay? Hunters takes place not long after the original Cross Wars. Kiriha and Nene are traveling, and Akari and Zenjiro still don't have cross-loaders, so our new trio is comprised of a slightly older Taiki, a much more mature Yu, and Taiki's new apprentice/superfan Tageru. Unlike every other season in the series, this one does not involve the digital world at all. Instead, Hunters focuses on an area called Digiquartz, an in-between area that is affected by the events of the real world and can affect it in return. Digimon slip out of Digiworld and into the space between, then wreak havoc by influencing and feeding on human emotions. It's up to a new generation of fighters called Hunters to capture these Digimon, which is probably the first time I'll come right out and say Digimon is copying Pokemon and not the other way around. As opposed to Cross Wars, where numbers were strength and you could use the whole dang world in a fight if you wanted, Digiquartz presents limited combat rules. Only one Digimon can fight at a time per human, and they are only allowed one partner to Digicross. This takes away a lot of the flash that Cross Wars had, but it also strengthens the strategy idea. Now Hunters rely much more on super evolution, and carefully choose their augmentations based on the context of the battle. So one of the things that Cross Wars brought back from Adventure and Frontier is that time in the digital world passes much faster than in the real world. As a result, Taiki has only grown 1 year, but our returning friend Shoutmon has ruled as king for a long time. He's not grown into Omega Shoutmon yet, but he has changed. I've got to be honest, I love this design. I like the crown earbuds, the yellow cape, the battle scarring, the war paint, the chest piece. This may actually be my favorite partner Digimon yet. That being said, I also really like the digital world's wild child, Gumdramon. If you thought that Shoutmon partied hard when he was young, you ain't seen nothing. Gumdramon was such a troublemaker that Shoutmon himself has to keep an eye on him like a bratty little brother. You can guess who this guy pairs up with. This season catches probably even more flack than Adventure 02 for Tageru's ambition being annoying and having a pretty basic monster of the week premise. And like 02, I like it anyway. However, I do have a small piece of validation on this one. Hunters sometimes catches a break because unlike 02, which ended with a pretty lackluster epilogue, this season ends with a bang. Hunters does the one thing everyone has wanted for years: it crosses over every season. That's right, Bagramon's defeat led to both the creation of Quartzmon and his Digiquartz, but also the weapon used to slay him, the Brave Snatcher. The Brave Snatcher requires the Goggleheads, and Marcus, to join forces in one interdimensional cross-timeline battle. And of course, Tageru inherits his hero's goggles and saves the day with Gumdramon's final form, Eristadramon Superior Mon. There's not a lot to say about Hunters. It's short, it's pretty standard fare, and it doesn't really get exciting until the end when all your favorite characters start showing up. But it has its charm. I especially like the designs in this season, and I appreciate that they put a limit on the magnitude of the battles. It's not a popular story arc, but I still think it's worth watching. Join us next week when we travel back to the Adventure universe to check in on our old friends as they battle high school. We'll see you then.
Hello, my name is Drew, and welcome to this week's segment of Anime Academy. In this segment, we will be discussing art styles in anime and how they can be more varied than one may think. An example of a great show that breaks the standard in art style is Mob Psycho 100. In Mob Psycho, the characters of the show are drawn to closely resemble the art style of the original comic. Characters will often be poorly drawn for comedic effect or have absurd expressions to portray the way the character feels about a situation. It isn't crazy different than the current standard, but it definitely has its own flair. Another great example is in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. The art style in JoJo's is often very distinct, and can be seen as old-fashioned in its earlier seasons. It is unique because the art style changes a little each part to show the progression of the artwork in the original manga. Later parts of JoJo can often not even be close to how the show looked in Part 1. The crazy use of colors is often used to mirror the tone of the scene. Changing a character's color palette is almost unheard of in the standard style of anime, but is used well in this example. There are tons of examples of shows that are not seen as standard when compared to the common style of anime. These shows often tell a story that is required to have a unique style, or they're trying to adapt the original style of the source material. No matter the reason, these shows always stand out as a unique work of art that are worth watching. Once again, this was Drew, and thanks for watching this week's segment of Anime Academy. I hope you enjoyed.
Thanks, guys. We are going to take a short break, but when we come back, we'll talk about our favorite monsters, a return of our favorite toys, and some live-action adaptations from Disney. Plus, we tell you which films we are excited to see this summer. Stay with us. Welcome back to Nerd Central. Let's talk about the return of our favorite toys with Toy Story 4. After their owner, Bonnie, creates a new toy named Forky, Woody and the gang go on a road trip to discover the world is bigger than they ever imagined. The film also sees the return of Bo Peep, Woody's girlfriend, after she was absent from the third installment of the franchise. Toy Story 4 is the first film in the Toy Story series to have the black bars on top and bottom of the screen, as the previous 3 films filled the whole screen. Most of the main cast has stated that the ending of this film has an even sadder ending than the third one. We will just have to wait and see when Toy Story 4 is released on June 21st.
Now let's take it to Taking a Bite with Katie.
Good evening and welcome to Taking a Bite with me, Katie. Last week I put Deep Blue Sea up against 47 meters down and Deep Blue Sea was our winner. This week I will be putting Deep Blue Sea up against Malibu Shark Attack. Who will come out on top? That's what we are here to find out. Malibu Shark Attack is about a group of lifeguards. The lifeguards are forced to evacuate the beach and take shelter in the lifeguard hut because of a tsunami, and a girl's leg got cut open. The lifeguards were trying to stitch up her wound when sharks started to surround them because the blood got in the water. They see that the sharks are goblin sharks. The sharks start to attack the hut and break through the floor. One of the lifeguards gets dragged out of the hut through the floor and killed. The group manages to kill one of the sharks. The lifeguards decide that they need to distract the sharks so one of them can leave and go get a flare gun. As the lifeguard was trying to get to the flare gun, one of the sharks attempts to eat him, but the lifeguard shoots the shark with the flare gun instead. The hut is receiving a lot of damages, so the remaining lifeguards decide to go to the top of the hut to see if they can find anybody to help. A boat arrives, but soon after it runs out of fuel. They drift to a nearby house. A shark appears, and one of them ends up sacrificing himself so the rest can get away. They get into the flooded house and kill a shark and take shelter in a car. The group meet up and kill the final shark. In the morning, a helicopter arrives to get them out safely. Now, let's be honest, this movie is the definition of a typical shark movie. I mean, lifeguards on a beach trying to escape a tsunami with crazy sharks. Who would have guessed it? I will admit that their use of goblin sharks is definitely original. In fact, I haven't seen a movie where they use those type of sharks. The only thing is the CGI really needs some work. There are even some scenes where the ocean waves look fake, which is not something you want to see in a shark movie. I know that their budget was only $3 million, but this movie's goblin sharks look nothing like real goblin sharks. Going on to the actors, if I'm being honest, the acting wasn't great. And it's not the kind of acting where it's so bad it's good, it's just straight up bad acting. The actors really try their best, but it doesn't work. Their emotions seem all over the place, almost as if they don't know what emotion they should be feeling at that point in time. Alright, it's that time again. It's time for another Shark Showdown. Deep Blue Sea versus Malibu Shark Attack. Who will be tonight's winner of the Shark Showdown? Can I get a drum roll, please? There's no shock this time. The winner of this week's Shark Showdown is Deep Blue Sea. Deep Blue Sea is on a roll, winning for a third time in a row. Can we really be that surprised though? Tune in to Taking a Bite next week where I will be putting Deep Blue Sea up against the Meg.
Thanks, Katie. Sticking with Disney, they are releasing 2 live-action adaptations of their animated films. Let's talk about the one that will make $1 billion easily. The photorealistic computer-generated retelling of The Lion King will be roaring into theaters with a mostly new cast with one exception. James Earl Jones will be returning to voice Mufasa with Donald Glover and Beyoncé voicing Simba and Nala respectively. The Circle of Life will be complete when The Lion King hits theaters on July 19th. Stay tuned a little later to see which one of us makes the other film our pick for the summer.
But for now, we have a couple of films coming out with monsters in them. Let's start with the pocket variety. Pokemon Detective Pikachu is an adaptation of a video game of the same name. It tells the story of Tim Goodman, played by Justice Smith, as he tries to find out what happened to his dad. He runs into a Pikachu who can talk, and we're not talking just Pika Pika, but actual English. Pikachu is voiced by Ryan Reynolds. Tim and Pikachu must join forces to solve this epic mystery. Detective Pikachu will ask if you can catch them all when it hits theaters on May 10th.
The other monster just so happens to be the king of the monsters, and that's Godzilla, King of the Monsters. This is the 3rd film in the Monsterverse and a sequel to the 2014's Godzilla. An onslaught of Godzilla's greatest foes threaten the world, and who else but Godzilla could save the day? No one, that's who. This will set up the ultimate battle between Godzilla and King Kong next year. Godzilla, King of the Monsters will rule the theaters when it debuts on May 31st.
And now it's time to tell you guys what film we are excited for this summer. Channing, why don't you tell us what you're excited for?
Sure. The film I'm excited for is Aladdin, a retelling of the 1992 Disney animated classic. This film is the second of 3 live-action adaptations from Disney. Will Smith will take over the role of Genie from the late Robin Williams, with Naomi Scott as Princess Jasmine. After an abysmal start to the marketing, the film is now starting to gain a following. The outrage all started when we got our first look at the filmmaker's interpretation of the Genie, and it didn't look good. But opinions can change. We won't have to wait as long as we will be introduced to a whole new world on May 24th.
My pick is Spider-Man Far From Home. Marvel's fourth phase of their cinematic universe begins with this film. The story takes Peter Parker and his alter ego Spider-Man on a school field trip to Europe when he is called upon by Nick Fury to help with a new threat, the Elementals. But Spidey has an unexpected ally with our first live-action interpretation of Mysterio. Tom Holland returns as our friendly neighborhood superhero with Jake Gyllenhaal taking on the role of Mysterio. Kobe Smulders, Maria Hill, Jon Favreau's Happy Hogan, and Marissa Tomei's Aunt May are all returning. Far From Home is swinging to a theater near you on July 5th.
That's going to do it from us. You can watch all of our previous episodes on the KNWT YouTube page. You can also follow KNWT on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
And follow Nerd Central at nerd_central_TV. We decide once and for all who is the best DC character. Let's kick it over to Devin Van Zant for Nerd Showdown to decide this.
Thanks, girls. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Nerd Showdown, the part of Nerd Central where we battle it out on a particular topic we have no business debating. I'm your host, Devin Van Zant, and with the release of Shazam, we ask the question yet again, who is the best DC character? Keep in mind our fighters will be diving deep into their respective characters, so this is your spoiler warning. Let's meet the fighters. First, I have the producer of Nerd Central, Andy Johnson. Andy, who have you chosen as your character?
I have chosen Red Hood.
All right, and we also have the creator of Force Feeding and Dead on Arrival, Cody Nance. Cody, who have you chosen?
The fastest man alive, The Flash.
Which one?
Barry Allen.
Awesome. Well, you've heard our fighters. When we come back, the showdown will commence. Welcome back to Nerd Showdown. Andy, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Cody, are you ready?
I am.
Well, then let's showdown. Andy, why don't you start us off? Why is Red Hood the best DC character?
Red Hood is the best DC character mostly because of his backstory. So he was a Robin. He was the second Robin. He was also he was Jason Todd. Obviously, he's trained by Batman, so he has all the martial arts and like 15 different martial arts. But in a few issues called A Death in the Family, he is taken by Joker and basically trying to like give in to the Joker's misdeeds and all that kind of stuff, and Joker beats him to death. And when Batman finds him, we get the picture on the TV, Batman carrying Robin out. I'm guessing he sat underneath that cowl. You can't really tell. But just Jason Todd's bloody, disfigured everything body. And after that, Ra's al Ghul actually puts him into Lazarus Pit and revives him, becoming the Red Hood to seek vengeance on Batman and all the other Rogues Gallery of villains.
All right, Cody, why do you think that the Flash is the best DC character?
You want to talk tragic backstories? The Flash had his wife murdered, his mother murdered, and his father murdered, and he has the power to change it. The Flash can run so fast that he can travel through time, but he knows he can't. He has the power to, but can't do it without starting World War III as he did in the comic Flashpoint. And despite all of that, at the end of the day, Barry still runs with a smile on his face. Like, the Flash represents the purest form of freedom. Like, he represents how, he represents that nothing is impossible, that you should believe that you can do whatever you want to do.
All right. Now, Andy, let's hear your rebuttal. Why do you think the Flash is not that great?
Okay, we're going with backstory. I'm sorry, but my character died. Your character had other people die in his family. I'm pretty sure yourself dying is a little bit more than having his other people dying. Anyway, when Devin asked which Flash, that's a problem. We have to like your favorite may be Barry West. Barry. Wow, I just combined two of them. Barry Allen. There's also Wally. You've got other Flashes, so you're not just focused on one. There's only one Red Hood.
Cody, your rebuttal.
Well, Jason Todd's just basically a whiny emo kid. All he cares about is himself and revenge. He doesn't come like out of a pure form of love. He is just angry all the time and has no other motivation than, people were mean to me back in the day and got me dead. I'm gonna kill them back. And it just doesn't make for a very interesting character when he has no other qualities. And he's also just jealous of Batman, I think, because he constantly states, I want to be better than you, Batman, and he never will be.
All right, well, Andy, wrap it all up. Why do you think that Red Hood is the best character?
So I believe the Red Hood is the best character. I always look at his backstory. I always look to see where this character came from. And like I said before, he was trained by Batman. Yes, he wants to, obviously everybody wants to be better than Batman. Nobody can, but everybody wants to be better than Batman. He's probably, besides the Joker, I would say he's probably one of the closest to getting there. And that outfit is just really great, and I love it.
All right, Cody, your final statement on Barry Allen's Flash.
The Flash's death was a sacrifice. He was willing to risk his own life for everybody around him. Jason Todd wouldn't do that. The mantle of the Flash, it's important. There has to be a Flash. That's why there's so many. If there is no Flash in the world, then reality starts to break down on itself and the Speed Force loses control. So the importance of the Flash outweighs the importance of the Red Hood tenfold.
That's going to do it for this week's Nerd Showdown. I have chosen my winner, and this week I think it is Cody. Now, each week we have a Twitter poll regarding the topic at hand, and our Game Master James has been keeping an eye on it. James, how did the fans vote?
Well, in a vote of 13-3, the Flash comes in first in this race.
You can head to Nerd Central's Twitter to vote for next week's poll. Nerdmageddon is coming up next. We'll see you next week on Nerd Central.
James Earl Jones will be returning to voice Mufasa. James Earl Jones will be returning to voice Mufasa.
So close! It was right. Mufasa.
James Earl Jones will be returning to voice Mufasa with Donald Glover.
Mufasa.
James Earl Jones will be returning to voice Mufasa with Donald Glover and Beyonce voicing Simba and Nyla, respectively.
Nala.
The outrage all started when we got our first look at the filmmaker's interpretation of the genie, and it didn't look good. But options can change. We won't have to wait as long as we will be introduced.
But options can change. It's okay.
Just start at options, but options.
Opinions. But opinions can change.